All right. It looks like we're going. It's happening. So I'm here with Stephen Brooks. We met a few years ago in Texas. I want to say that were we both keynote speakers?
I think so.
Event?
Yeah, I think we were.
Mm-hmm. Like close all the classrooms. Everybody has to like go into the big room. I think there were like 500 attendees.
Yeah,
and that was the first time I ever even heard of you, and I was absolutely stunned by your presentation. And
amazing.
And I thought the venue was terrific. I had a great time. I felt like, I loved it. And of course, the neat thing is to meet people like you.
Amazing.
Some of the presenters I wasn't like all that keen on, but there was you, and of course Joel Salatin was there, and he's like,
oh, that's right.
Whenever I run into him at an event, and so I need to do stuff with Joel. I don't know why I never have for this kind of thing, but Stephen, your stuff was deeply profound. I mean, I'm used to visiting communities. And a lot of times, I have visited communities that were healthy, but most of the communities that are active that I visited, it seemed like they were having a lot of turnover and that there was a lot of people being frustrated and stuff like that. But it just sounded like you took an approach that is radically different from anything I've ever heard of. And it sounded like not only was it working really well, but you were at the time going to start up one or two more communities in addition. And now today we're going to try to catch up. But I kind of got a rumor that you got maybe more than the 3 going right now. Is that accurate?
Yes. It is accurate. It is, and I can kind of just give you the trajectory of all of it. Yeah, and I'm remembering that conference that we spoke at, and it was interesting for me. It was so different than anything I'd ever spoken at. It was more like Prep-ers, and like I think right after me was like in the vending there was like people selling guns and like bunker designs, and it was definitely out of what I'm used to doing. But yeah, it was cool. It was the best. One of the best things was meeting you.
And there's a lot of people that are in the world of permaculture that get a little turned off by the Prep-ers.
Yeah.
And I gotta say that hats off to Jack Spirko. I like Jacques Spirko, but he carries the permaculture and community message to the Prep-ers, and I think that it does more for what we want than anybody else. And so I love the idea that that, for example, at that event they were so community-esque, and I kind of feel like a lot of the Prep-ers, the thing that they are either told or the thing that they're passionate about is make sure you have enough bullets to kill your local community. And because when things go bad, they're all going to come for what you have. And it's like, whereas the event we were at, it was very much like, oh, you want to build community. That's your number one prep, is to build community. And I just kind of thought, yes. So I don't know. I really liked it there. I had a great time, and so many fantastic people. It was just really good. I really enjoyed myself.
Have you been back to it?
No, and now things have changed. I don't know if I would go even if they invited me, but in order to get, so you met me in person, and I think
which is rare. I hear
there's a problem that I have with travel, and that is that I tell people that I'm big, but I don't think that they believe how big I am until they meet me in person. And then a lot of people are very upset at how big I am. But the thing is that, like, to go to that event, I got onto an airplane, and so it costs extra for me to be on an airplane. And but now I'm not going to travel like that anymore. I believe 2 weeks ago the words were, I'm not allowed to even be on a domestic flight. I mean, I don't have a passport, and there's this thing that happened with Montana. Montana's been fighting this real ID thing for decades.
Real ID, right? I heard about that.
Yeah, and so I don't understand. I don't care, but I was like, I'm not going to get the real ID, which is Montana is an option. But if you don't get it, you don't get to get on planes or trains or boats. And so, okay with me, I'm just going to not travel anymore. So
I like
to
it.
come down there, they paid a lot of money to get me there, and which was cool. And, and I went and spoke at some other things, and they would fly me around and stuff, and pay the extra airfare. But I don't know. I like this kind of thing where the technology is advanced enough.
We don't need to go anywhere.
Online. It's pretty damn good. It's not perfect,
I love it.
But it's good.
Yeah.
But okay, I as excited as I was about the event, and I enjoyed it, and yes, I've been to some prepper events where it seemed like people, it was a little gunsy, a little more gunsy than that. And I didn't think that event was all that gunsy. And I don't mind the gunsy stuff. I live in Montana.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's not really my thing. I mean, when I meet people that love the guns, like they've got like a different sidearm for each day of the week. And, they're constantly polishing them and going to target practice and stuff. I mean, boy, they love their guns, and they have more than 100.
Yeah.
And that's
I live in Costa Rica where there's no army.
Oh,
here in Costa Rica, we have no army. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are people allowed to have guns in Costa Rica?
They are allowed to. Although I rarely, it's so interesting that we're even having this conversation. I'm hearing, maybe it wasn't, I'm just trying to remember where I just was, where like people I never would have thought, maybe it was in the US, people that I never would have thought are now getting guns for the first time in their lives. And, or like people I never would have thought would have even been having that conversation. But I hope to never have one. I can't say never, but I hope to never have one.
I mean, to me, it's a tool. It's not, I'm trying to think of like I don't know. We do have a lot of chainsaws, but we have a lot of trees, and
I have a lot of chainsaws too.
So I'm trying to think of like a tool, like shovel, like, I've got like 400 shovels because I mean, it's a tool.
I know. And especially you have bears that could like come in, and I know in Alaska, my friend always had a gun with him because there's like grizzly bears that like attack you. And well,
we're in grizzly bear country, but the grizzly bears are like a long ways away. Like I've never seen a grizzly bear anywhere around here. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen a grizzly bear in the wild. I've seen black bears here, but black bears are like the size of a large dog, and they run away from people. We don't have, I mean, there's mountain lions here. And so some people believe that they need to be armed for the mountain lions, but the mountain lions run away too. Generally, I've heard stories of mountain lions not running away, but I've heard stories of tree squirrels not running away. And it's like, it could happen, I suppose. But we're very fortunate. We don't have mosquitoes. We don't have scary snakes. We don't have, we do have moose. I would not want to tangle with the moose, but all right. I'm excited.
All right, let me take it. I'll take it away.
Okay. At the same time, I mean, there's our history kind of want to talk about, and then of course all these weird topics to go jump into. But you presented about this community that you would build, and it was working extremely well. And the general format is it only families? Because it seemed very family centric.
So yeah, I'm from Miami, Florida. I had like a very normal beautiful childhood. My dad was a dentist of an island in the Bahamas. My mom he was a dentist in Miami, but he was a dentist of a lot of people in this island in the Bahamas. So I had a real direct connection and fell in love with nature really through the ocean from that part of my childhood. And I'm just trying to think, it was very, very loving family. My parents have been together since they were in 8th grade. I lived in a really epic neighborhood, super safe. I lived right on a canal, which was like a few canals off the bay, which was just a short ride from the ocean. So I was like using boats long before I drove cars. And so like a lot of my like early child years were just like on the ocean, and I was super into tropical fish. I had 600 gallons of fish tanks in my house, and I was catching everything that was in them, and like super cool. And then just to kind of fast forward, a big thing for me was on October 14th, 1988. I went to my first Grateful Dead concert, and it really rocked me, like rocked me literally, but it really rocked me, and just really tasting what it felt like to be surrounded by deep community, where everybody, I felt like I could have gone to any of the 30,000 people that were there, and I could have just gone and cried on their shoulder if I had to. Like there was just this like sense I never felt before. It was so unique, and it got me thinking, like, what is that? What am I feeling? And I want more, and so to fast forward a little bit more, in 1994, my best friend died in a car accident, which was another kind of like, whoa, life is so fragile and fleeting, and really got me questioning time and what we're doing here and how we're feeling it. And like the kind of jobs, I was like a year out away from graduating from college, like just the kind of jobs that people were going to do and like what that looked like. And then a year later, I went to Costa Rica. I had a girlfriend that was just studying a semester abroad, and I came down to Costa Rica to visit her and fell in love with the country, how beautiful the rainforest was, and the beaches, and the people, and the indigenous people, and it really was. I loved it, And then on one day, I went to go visit this indigenous reserve, where it was like the town that was like the hub, like the kind of commercial hub of the indigenous people. And on my way there, I was meandering through the jungle, and it was so beautiful, and I was already like kind of just falling in love with the place. And then I came around this corner, and as far as my eye could see were banana plantations. And I just remember being like, and then out of the corner of my eye came this like airplane, and it had a huge stream of smoke behind it. I literally thought it was about to crash in front of me, and it was like going right low over the banana plantation. It was a Chiquita banana crop duster, and I watched it fly right over a playground full of children playing soccer. And it like stops for 1 second. I guess like the pilot like closes the trap door that's dropping the chemical, and then opened it again. And I just watched the wind blow it right over the soccer field, and the children didn't even stop or slow down from playing. It's just part of their norm. And after investigating, we're like, this is a very, very strong fungicide that is neurotoxic chemical. And here we are spraying these beautiful indigenous children, these indigenous cultures that have literally treated the earth like an extension of their bodies for centuries. And here we are spraying them with these chemicals, so that most of the reason those chemicals are used is an aesthetic reality with the bananas, just because if you don't, they get this fungus that when the bananas touch, they get this little mark on them. It doesn't even affect the fruit. And so I was like, emergency brake on my life, Paul. Like, what the hell is going on here? How could this be happening? Like, who was responsible for this? And I just kind of wanted to blame and point. I was like, Chiquita Banana or Dow Chemical or Monsanto, or, just blame. And I was like, no, blame me, man. I've been cutting those things. I've been cutting those things and slicing them into my cereal my whole childhood. Like, I've been voting for that type of world. And it was like, it was a real aha moment, because it was like, wait a minute, like the world is the way it is, and I am here and I am a part of it, and I need to make a radical shift. And so literally from that moment on, it was like, dead stop. I really want to do something about this. I don't want to be a part of this sick culture anymore. And I literally, like, from one day to the next, said, okay, I'm going to move to Costa Rica, and I'm going to see if we could design things differently. Because, we're permaculture designers, and this word design, I'm sure for many of the people watching, is such a big, important thing. But it's like, who is designing this world, this like industrial agricultural hell? Who is oh, I forgot to put my last name. Who is designing just this, the communities, like the workers, these, mostly indigenous and Afro-Caribbean workers that are working in these plantations in terrible conditions, like, surrounded in chemicals and just living in real hell. And it's like, I can't believe this is happening, and what can we possibly do about it? So I was having all these visions, of like, what, these are massive lands, like thousands of hectares of land that are just monocropping one variety of banana. And it's just like, I started, I never studied permaculture. I wasn't into fruit trees. I just was like imagining, I was going to these like little gourmet restaurants at night, and they'd have a selection of 10 different fruit juices. And every night I'd order like 2 or 3 that I never heard of. I remember I had my first guanabana. Oh, I actually have a fruit here in the fridge that I'm going to have them bring in so I could show you at some point during our time together. But
yeah, you tropical guys, you're crazy fruits.
Yeah. So
let me do the same thing to you first.
I'm going to tell my friend to bring it in.
Keep telling your story. Be right back.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, hold on. Can you bring me the mame when you get a chance? So I was so sad and just disgusted. And so the first thing I started doing was I started an educational tour company. I started bringing high school and college students down from the US and from Canada and Europe. And I would bring them to Costa Rica, and I'd show them sunchoke.
Sunchoke.
I love sunchokes.
Man, we're just eating tons of them.
I love them. But you know what they do to you,
They're
right?
better. They're tastier than a potato.
But you know what they're like artichoke potato, but you know what they do to you?
I know what they do to others.
Not to you?
Not to me.
Really?
The last time I had any comedy was like 7 years ago. And part of that is because what was made was so delicious that I ate way more than I should have. Like it was like, it tasted like crunchy candy. And I was just, oh man, I gobbled them up. I ate probably 2 pounds of this crunchy candy. And then the next day, then I got to have not just comedy, but painful comedy. But ever since then, I have never had any issue. And so part of it is you got to harvest them after a hard freeze. And another part of it is you got to build your system up to it. Now, for you probably don't have much in the way of a hard freeze, and so they're gonna.
Well, I actually haven't grown much.
Of comedy all the time.
Yeah, for those that don't know what we're talking about, it causes excessive gas, but not gas that's smelly. What I've witnessed and talked about, that it's like very large amounts of gas that don't like very large, like incredible. Anyway,
so what it does is it provides great comedy.
Yeah,
but no poison gases.
Exactly. It's actually and it's funny because I haven't eaten it that much even in my life, but I was just in New York and I ate it like 3 times in 1 week, because everywhere I go and everywhere I was going, they were serving it. Yeah, it's a great one. So anyway,
like, why even eat potatoes anymore? I mean, this stuff it just tastes way better.
And we replace them with breadfruit. We replace potatoes with breadfruit, which is a perennial giant fruit that grows on a tree. It's so abundant, and it's much like the French fries from breadfruit are way better than French fries from potato. It's amazing. So anyway,
go back to something you said a moment ago, because I want to say that my whole motivation is like almost exactly the same. So there was this point in time when you observed children being sprayed with fungicides, and then later you learned that this fungicide was brutally toxic, but these children were effectively, in the minds of those spraying, disposable. We, we get paid more if those children die than if we don't spray or whatever, if we give a shit about them. And I gotta say, for me, when I was a teeny bopper, my big thing was hiking the wilderness. So I had a huge backpack, and I would go up into the wilderness for a week or two at a time, and I would go to these teeny tiny lakes, and I would live off of foraging and fishing. And that was, and I loved doing it. And then somebody, somewhere when I was around 19, talked about the mercury in fish. And I said, it doesn't affect me because I go to these high mountain lakes that, are above any polluter. And so all of the water that goes in the lakes is from the glaciers right there where these lakes are. And they pointed out to me that I'm an ignorant boob. And the reality is that the mercury goes up into the air from the coal plants, and the whole world gets to now have oodles of mercury. And it's going to be up there in my high mountain wilderness lakes as well. And now, I think you suffer from the same disease I suffer from, which is that when you find out about these things, I think 99.9% of the population does what's considered healthy and normal, and that is to utter the phrase, they should do something about that. And dumb fucks like me and you get the phrasing wrong. What can I do about that? And then next thing you know, your whole life is turned upside down, and you're a horrible, monstrous, terrible person because, you're trying to get change, but people don't want to hear about it. Yeah. And it's like, so for me, it's from the coal plants, right? And so I ended up working at the energy planning organization for my region as a librarian, and I got to study all this stuff. And it just seems so clear that the thing to do is, how do you reduce the amount of energy that you use? That way they would shut down the coal plants. And they were stuck. They had things to share that were stupid, and they were weak. And so I don't know, I feel like a big part of my life has been dedicated to like coming up with things that are substantially better. And yet people just don't care. It's like they don't want to hear it. So I don't know, this is, and now I've discovered that bad guys want me to shut up. And we're trying to deal with that. Okay, you saw fungicides being sprayed on kids, and I'm sure since then you have witnessed at least a dozen more brutal atrocities like that. And you have found ways to have people live, because this is where I'm at. I'm way out in the middle of nowhere in Montana, far away from a lot of the worst problems, and for the very reasons that you point out. And it's like growing our own food. Also, that I mean, like, there's a beautiful video on YouTube that only has 42,000 views, and I wish it was 42 million, of a little girl. In fact, Andreas, I don't know if you can find this really quick. The little girl with the sweet potato, and sweet potatoes don't do super great here, but it doesn't matter. She was trying to do. She's like 8, and she's trying to do her science experiment at home with the sweet potato. You stick the toothpicks in it, and you put it in water, and she couldn't get it to do anything. And so then the grocer said, you got to do organic. So she did it with organic, and it kind of made some little pathetic things. And then she checked with the organic grocer, and it says, no, even the organic stuff, there she is, that's her. Even the organic stuff has this stuff in it. Bud nip. There she is with her sweet potato experiment, and that's sad. But and bud nip is a brutal carcinogen. And it's like, so she went to like some guy selling sweet potatoes on the street who pulled him out of his garden or something, and that grew huge and massive. There she is with the one that's from some guy's pickup truck, and it's like, so that means even the organic stuff is loaded with yucky things. She's got bud nip is equal to that giant word there that I can't read on my screen. But I don't know. I feel like you have to grow it yourself, because it doesn't matter if it's labeled organic. It still has a bunch of lies woven into it. I don't know how it is in Costa Rica, but like if you just live in the city of Costa Rica, I mean, clearly those kids were getting sprayed in Costa Rica.
Yeah. No, I mean, and for me, it was just like, okay, wait a minute. Like, what can we do about it? Oh yeah, check out this. This is a video that I made this was actually a TED talk that I gave. This was how I opened it, with this video. And just the reality of the workers, the banana workers. First of all, they're all indigenous. It's like, and everywhere it just says like, don't come in here. This is you basically, look, this place is not for humans. Like, but it is for the people that work there, and the people that, their company housing is embedded in it. These blue bags are like covering the bananas, just laced with chemicals. The banana plantations are endless. And literally they just come spray right over. And there I am, 25-year-old Steven, being like, wait a minute, like, how could this be happening? Like, how could this be happening in this day and age where we could literally zip around the world in a jet? I can be on a podcast with Paul Wheaton, who's in Montana. We have Andres in Colombia helping us put on videos. Like, and then who knows how many of you out there are watching, and you could put comments in the stream, and like, we could do that. And yet we're still doing this. We're still treating the earth, and we're still treating people like this. Like, how could this be? Like, is this really the best we could do, humanity? And so I just started thinking, like, why is it? And like, kind of the downloads that I was having, Paul, was like, why do the people live like clustered here in cities, or and then the agriculture is over here, and then the big national parks over here? So it's like, but what if we started to merge conservation and reforestation and regenerative agriculture and our suburbs, or smaller farms, and then the cities? Like, why does it have to be so isolated? And so it was just such a clear download that I knew we could do better. So I moved to Costa Rica, and I started bringing students to my farm. I became obsessed with agriculture and obsessed with plants. If you were ever to put a little title under my name, I would say I'm an ethnobotanist, which is the study of the relationship between human beings and plants. I met a guy and his wife and son who were living in the town Puerto Viejo in Costa Rica on the Caribbean side, and I ended up, so I started bringing students down, and then I bought this property, which was off the grid, meaning there was no road to get there. I met an old Jamaican man that was born there in 1928. He said, boy, my cord's buried right out there in the yard. I was like, what? My cord is buried right out there in the yard. Meaning he was born there in 1928. And there I was in 1995 with him. And he died in my arms in 2013. And he was this old Jamaican, like the quintessential old man by the sea. I played 3-4 hours of dominoes every day with him. And I also learned deep skill in observation. Patty, his name was Patty, would sit on his little porch overlooking the ocean and just observe. And there used to be a town of 60 to 80 families that lived there, and they all left. He always said, I used to live here with plenty of people. We had ball ground, we had church, we had all the things. But them leave, and they leave me alone. And he was the last remaining resident of what was called Punta Mona. And so I started living with him, and since there was no road to get there, we dug our own wells by hand. We started building our own homes from fallen trees. Andres, that one picture of the really jungly ocean shot you could show right now, and I got obsessed with collecting plants. These friends of mine from the town had a botanical garden. I just remember the first time I went there. This is Punta Mona. You can kind of see the cluster of our place right there on the beach. And like I said, there was no road. You had to come either a 25-minute boat ride around in between the island and the land there, and you could see there's coral reef right off there. And I started receiving my student groups there to spend a day of ecological living with this elder Jamaican man. And I ended up buying the land next to him, which was incredibly cheap because it had no road to get there. Anyone in their right mind wouldn't think to do anything there. And we just started growing food, and I watched what he was doing, and I hired people from the closest town, which was an hour hike south of me, a town called Gandoka. And people would come on horse and walking an hour every day, and I would just work with these brilliant very, like, in our terms, uneducated in like the system, but just so in tune with nature. The way they worked with their machete, the way that they would notice what's happening by the flowers that were on the ground, or the smell, or like they just like the way they were observing with all of their senses. Here I was, a 21-year-old suburban kid from Miami, and I'm here now learning from these wizards, wizards that are basically an outcast of society. They get paid pip. They can't even get jobs. Like they get paid the least amount of money, yet they were the most brilliant people I ever met. And this just like, I was just like, wow, everybody needs to learn from these people. And that's what our place became. And it was so interesting. So I was bringing my student groups from my tour company, which blew up because I was the first one to really do biology tours. So in those days, there was Spanish teachers, going to Spain, or there was French teachers going to France, but there wasn't biology teachers going to Costa Rica. And I would trick them, and I would lure them in with the biology, and then I'd slam them with the reality of how messed up our world is, and then they'd get to hang out with me in this farm, and be surrounded by, plant shamans. And yeah, so we started growing food, we started building, we started doing all the things that you do when you don't have a road and you don't have stores. And I just learned from people that had been living that way for so long. And then all of a sudden I started getting volunteers. It was kind of right when Woofer was starting, Willing Workers on Organic Farm. And we were like high up in the algorithm. And because there wasn't really any other options in Costa Rica. So we were like flooded with volunteers. So now we have student groups, we have volunteers. And then I started doing other kinds of groups. I started teaching permaculture. I took my course in 2001. We started in 99. I took my course in 99 with Joe Bullock and John Venezuela in Hawaii in 99, because it was really the only tropical permaculture course I could find. And then we started teaching together in 2001, and we would teach 3-4 courses a year. And it was mostly, I got to be, in those early years, it was mostly like very idealistic young hippies that were showing up, mostly women, because they were listening to the earth more. And then it started to shift. Then you started getting kind of like older, kind of wealthier people that were starting to wake up, whether they were like doing plant medicine, or people were, and those kind of people. And then we started doing like different retreats at our place. And then next thing you know, we were having like CEOs of like Fortune 500 companies coming. And what was so amazing, Paul, is we'd be at the dinner table, and there would be, all these like wealthy entrepreneurs, and there'd be like farm kids from different places in Europe and the US. And then there would be a Nicaraguan, like agricultural workers. And then there'd be, Afro-Caribbean, fisherman friend of my neighbor. And we'd all be sitting at the same table talking about important things. And that went on for 25 years. And I just want to say that farm here, we're going to save that picture, Andres, because that's later on. I have to, like, what started to happen was we would like literally wake up in the morning for sunrise, because we're on the East Coast. So at 5:30 we'd be on the beach with big speakers, and we'd be having a dance party, running off solar on the beach, dancing to the sunrise. Next thing you know, we're all in the ocean, wiping off our sweat. Then there's a mountain of exotic fruits that you've never heard of on the kitchen counter, and then everybody would just flock to the garden and work, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. And again, it was this whole array of kinds of people out there in the garden just making it happen. And I'd say about 15 years ago, Paul, we had one of the largest collections of useful plants on earth. Often we would serve meals that ingredients were meeting for the first time in the history of humanity because of all the crazy things that we were growing. And so I like to say, and then I'm going to give you like a really sad thing. So in 2020, I was on this Netflix show called Down to Earth with Zac Efron, and it like blew up what we were doing. It was it came out July 10th, 2020, in the heart of COVID. This guy, Zac Efron, who I'd never heard of, do you know who he is, Paul?
I know he's a famous guy.
He's an
actor. Is he an actor?
He's an actor, but like mega famous. And he came down.
He's one of those guys that all the ladies like. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a certain age of ladies that just like had posters on his wall. And even to this day, he's very handsome. And so that show came out. And then a year later, the government came in with machine guns in a place where they don't have a lot of guns. And they shut our farm down. They shut it down, Paul. Why did they shut it down, you might ask? And my response is because we cracked the code on life. And I was just with Zach Bush, who runs retreats here, is a good friend of mine. He looked at me and goes, Stephen, congratulations. It means you were doing everything right. And I'm not such a conspiracy guy. Like, I don't think there's like some Montgomery Burns sitting in an office saying, we're going to spray all the indigenous children with neurotoxic chemicals and keep the righteousness down. I don't believe that. And from when this happened, it really got me thinking, wow, there's some real freaking darkness out there. And I don't really understand it, but I'm going to keep the faith that we're still on track and we're going to keep doing it. And so that simultaneous as Punta Mona and all that was happening in 2005-06, my dad was retiring from being a dentist for 30 years. And we decided together, I convinced him, I was like, Dad, we got to start communities. I want to have children. You're getting older. And Punta Mona is so far off the grid in the middle of nowhere. Let's create a criteria of what would the perfect land look like to create community. And Paul, the clearer you are with your criteria, the better chance you'll find what you're seeking, whether it's a job or a husband or whatever. So for me, it was like, okay, one, I want to be in Costa Rica. No army, great climate, welcoming to foreigners. Two, I want to be within 1 hour of San Jose. I don't want to be so far from the airport if I have to go places. Three, I want to be somewhere between 400 and 800 meters above sea level. I love that edge where we're still hot enough and warm enough to grow the deep tropical fruits, but it's high enough and cool enough nights to grow the kale and the veggies. And then I wanted to be able to go and lay on big hot boulders naked and lay there until my skin got all hot and crispy, and then I could roll into the crystal clear river and drink the water. Paul, this is my criteria. I could set it however I want. And then I want to find land that was already deforested. I don't want to come and find land that's because I want to regenerate the land. I don't want to come and find land that's still with intact forest. So I had very clear criteria, and literally once I made the criteria, within 3 days, I drove straight to the land. And so the first property was 45 acres. We broke it into about 47 lots. We did a full permaculture design. Instead of putting a golf course, we put big orchards, and all the roadsides were planted with all the different fruit trees that I'd been collecting for years on the coast. And we put in a beautiful greenhouse, and in that one we built a huge methane digester for the septic for the whole community, and the roads were made with these recycled plastic grates, and so we did all these things that were interesting. And we were on a crystal clear river, 45 minutes from San Jose, and we sold out, and we sold to people from about 20 countries, and then the parents co-created a school. And then a couple of years later, 2007, I'm very much into Burning Man, Paul. I don't know if you've ever been at Burning Man, but I love Burning Man. And my 2007 Burning Man camp bought the property up the street, and we started a second community that's called Taco Tal, which is about 25 families. And then fast forward to 2018, we bought 170 acres more. When I say we, mostly my dad and I were partners. And then we would have different partners in the different projects, and we would raise money from friends and family. The last one's called Alegria Village, and there's still a few lots left at Alegria Village, but it came out right. We were starting right when COVID started, and people were flocking there, and so and it was right when the TV show came out, so like it was like the best advertising ever, and so we sold out, almost sold out pretty fast. There's like a few resales right now, and now between the three companies, three communities, we're like over 200 families, 150 kids in the school that the parents co-created. The gardens are dripping. You can show that garden little video from Instagram. Now we're getting there. And you could, and then in Alegria, you can go to that. Like those pictures I sent you, Andres, from Alegria. You can see like the garden design that we did, the drawing, which was like the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put an epic garden. So I said, okay, we'll make a 20-meter dome. We'll put an epic mandala garden around it. Then we'll do a Fibonacci spiral coming off of that. And then so we did that. And now you can go to, the one. Yeah, so that was the garden. That's 20-meter dome right there. And the garden came out pretty epic. And then you can go a few over to the one where you can see the dome from, that one. Exactly. Andres, you're an epic. And so this is the view from our yoga deck that we built up over the garden. So we're like, we're trying to sell lots. Yeah, come do yoga and look at this garden below. And then go to the video, because what happened, the Instagram video, is those beds were kind of spread out. It looked cool and everything, and not even with me involved, the neighbors came in and redesigned the garden and made it way tighter and way more close together, and did a different design that's now, like, I did what I did and the neighbors have made it 100 times better. Like, they're so on top of it. And that was kind of the goal. I didn't want to be there and be the guru. And like, a lot of people like saw me on the Zac Efron show, like, oh, we want to go live with that guy. I'm off to the next one, Paul. Like, my biggest role here is an igniter. So look, this is what the garden looks like now, and it is just pumping food. And you can see on the left there that row of trees, and look at the size of the cars. That's a huge garden. Those cars, these are all fruit trees along the road, and they're all starting to produce. And so now, part of your HOA dues every Tuesday, everybody, it's like a celebration of food. You go down to the dome every Tuesday, and all the neighbors are there picking up their baskets of all the different fruits and greens and yucca and sweet potatoes and all the things. And it's thriving, and people are happy, and it's in the hands of the neighbors. It's like they're just doing it. And what's cool is, at first, like, the three communities were like kind of in this weird, oh, what's gonna happen there, what's gonna be like. And now every night there's something cool happening. All the communities flock to one of them. There's workout things happening, there's yoga classes, there's some speaker about Buddhism, there's every day there's something cool happening. And then there's like, each community has like its series of WhatsApp groups, and now there's a WhatsApp group for the whole valley. And now there's a health food store in a town never would have had a health food store. I mean, it's really a phenomenon. I'm super proud of it. And then now, about 2.5 years ago, we moved to the coast in a town called Nosara, which is kind of like the new age epicenter, like yoga, spiritual side area of Costa Rica. And we bought 100 acres on the beach. And basically all the lessons we've learned from all the things we've already done, we're kind of incorporating in this. And one of the things we're doing is kind of like a Punta Mona 2.0, which is like a permaculture school and hospitality center. And then, the only other thing I just want to add in here, Paul, I know I've been on a monologue for a while, but this last kind of thread is, in 2020, the same time all this was happening, I had this student in 2018 in my permaculture course in Punta Mona. She was this epic student. Everybody has to do their design project, and her design project was just so creative, so brilliant. I'm sure you've seen those before. And I was just like, basically right out of the permaculture course, I hired her to be the head of marketing. I also started a big music festival in Costa Rica. It's called the Envision Festival. And I hired her to be the head of marketing because I just saw her brilliance. And we did that together for a few years. And then in 2020, we stepped away and we started Ecoversity, because she left that course and she's like, Steven, you can't be teaching this to 30, 40 people at a time. we need hundreds of thousands of people taking this course. Like, what does that look like? How can we do that? And so in 2020, we started doing online permaculture courses, which I'm sure that you could. I was kind of like, no, we can't do this online. And now, sometimes we'll have 300 or 400 people in a course, and literally, Paul, I know people's voice, I know where they're from, I know which design project they're in. Like, it's amazing what's the community that happens inside Zoom. It's really epic. And so, yeah, Ecoversity, we have another course coming up in January. It's called the Living Design, and Living Systems Design. And yeah, we have all these amazing teachers from David Holmgren to, I teach with Penny Livingston, who's so great. And Zach Bush comes on and Starhawk. And we got to get you on there, Paul, now that we're reconnected. And it's like teaching a live course. You couldn't get David Holmgren. He's like you. He doesn't even leave his house in Australia. He doesn't leave his farm. He's got too much to take care of, just like you. But the fact that we could bring you in and people can learn from your magic and your brilliance sitting in their living room, it's a real gift.
I've been holding on to a question for 15 minutes, I think. And I want to, and this is weird, give me, but I suspect that you'll enjoy the question. But
I'm excited.
All right. It goes like this. Let's suppose that the whole earth did not put pollution into the air. They didn't do the fungicide spray of the children. There's anything that is possibly pollution based. Like, let's just say there's no petroleum driven vehicles. There's no airplanes, there's none of that. But we do have modern medicine, which some modern medicine has proven to help people, be very helpful.
Definitely.
So I think that the lifespan of an American dipped for the first time ever a few years ago. And I think it's just now gotten back up to where it was. But my question to you is, and let's just focus on Americans for just a second. If we didn't have all these sources of toxins, and pollutions, and yuckiness and things like that, and we did things in let's say a more permaculture way, like everybody agreed to do things the permaculture way, as an example, or something that smells like permaculture. Let's just pretend for a moment that right now the average lifespan of an American is 80 years. What do you think the average lifespan would be if we traveled away from pollution and towards permaculture? Like, it was like not just traveling, but we're there. We've been there for 100 years. Now, what's the average lifespan of Americans?
Yeah. Great question. I love it. I love it. You really got me thinking. But it's funny, while you were asking me, the thing that was coming up, and I've been hanging out with Zach Bush so much, and he speaks so much about the decline of sperm count. He's like, we don't have to worry, we don't have to worry about the cancer as much as we have to worry about, we're not even going to be able to reproduce anymore in 20 years because our sperm count is so down from the Roundup. But, I think it would radically increase. I think it would mostly radically increase because I think people would be living in more joy, and less stress, and people would be gardening and taking care of themselves because they would want to. People don't take care of themselves anymore. I'm even thinking of my mother-in-law, for instance. She used to be super active, and now she's just on her phone, and reading news and playing games on her phone and and because we stopped growing food and we stopped having that connection to nature that got us out there so much. So I don't know, right. 110. I'm
thinking 120.
Yeah, I agree.
So we'd have a lot of people that are hitting 150, but the average would be closer to 120. That's just my opinion. But it's a lot of it you can't get away from because of what's in the air. But, okay, and then you touched on something about how we live our lives, and it has been. This is something that I've thought of a lot over many decades, but in the last year, even the last 6 months, it seems like this is the thing I need to observe firsthand to reiterate, and that is something you just touched on, and that is that I think, like, you go to a city and you're in the city and you meet the people and they're trying to live a permaculture life, but their way of living permaculture is that means that they buy food at Whole Foods instead of Safeway. And it's like, and they also buy eco light bulbs, and they're like, I've done it all. I've done everything I can do. And in the meantime, and I've met people that insist that who they are. You ask them, who are you? And you said you're an ethnobotanist. And I thought, what am I? I don't know what I am. But I've met people and they said that they are a gardener. And when I kind of ask them about the gardening that they're doing, it sounds like they haven't done any gardening for years. And it's like, it's because they live in the city and they have to pay rent or mortgage.
Yeah.
And then they have to pay for the car that gets them to work and back. And they've got all these other expenses. And then, of course, the idea of trying to live off of a garden in a city is too challenging. And I would wish to, address that. But setting that aside, they feel convinced that they have to get the money to pay for the food. And then, of course, rather than taking time gardening, they have to go to the Whole Foods, pick out the food that they're going to eat, and then wait in line and buy it. Now they can eat
pay
it.
Exorbitant prices.
Or go to a restaurant and do the thing that you got to do at a restaurant to get it. And sure, there's prices, but basically their strategy is like, if the price is too high, I need to get a job that pays higher. And a lot of times you get that job that pays higher, and it's a little soul draining, but you get more money, but it's harder. And not only do you need to be there on time, but for this higher pay, you need to be there early and you need to stay late. But that's okay, because now you have more money and you can, make yourself more comfortable with more money. So what I'm observing is people who call themselves gardeners, and even people who don't, and their life seems to me to be very gray and soulless. And they're and you were saying some stuff, and it's like, this is exactly it. It's like they don't like their life or themselves, and they wish they were somebody else, but they also feel like they're locked in. They feel like there's no alternative. There's no other path. And so I kind of feel like there is. And it's actually pretty easy to get there, but you do got to kind of let go of, what is the thing? There's a phrase about how it'll be impossible to convince people to step out of the chains of slavery. They just won't do it.
That's the name of my book. The name of my book is Break Them Chains, A Suburban Guy's Escape from the System.
There we go.
It's not out yet, but it's getting there. I'm working on it right now.
Okay. But it's like the last 6 months I've seen so much of these people where they refuse to even look at the chains, and they're sad. They are so sad, and they're carrying so much pain about the path that they're on. But I kind of feel like this whole thing of like they feel like there's nothing else, and a big part of it is living in the city. And it's like, you live in the city because you can get more money per year by being in the city than if you were living out of the city. And I kind of feel like when you live out of the city, if you want to grow enough food to feed a dozen people, which would be you and others that perhaps, That can be 10 or 20 times easier to do out of the city. Like if you've got a couple of acres, and it's like that now, growing a lot of food becomes so much easier. But if you're in town living in pollution soup, then generally you don't have like a lot of acreage to grow a lot of food, and it can be a pinch to grow enough for one person on an
And the thing
lot.
I think the biggest limited factor, Paul, is time. You're limited on time. You don't have time to do it anymore. Like, to live and grind there, it just takes all you know. It's like you're so tired because you work so hard to even just pay your rent. It's like you can't even do any of the things you want to do because you're just like grinding. And I've been seeing it. I've been looking at, and that's why I wrote that book. I started it years ago, and I put it down for 10 years, and I just picked it up to finish it. And I feel like it's good timing because, like, more than ever, people are like, what in the hell am I doing? Like,
Yeah, it is. They're drowning. They're drowning in their choices, and they're told that these are the best choices. Like they've followed the path to be comfortable. They followed the path to try to be able to breathe, to try to be able to have safety. But I think that the playing field is shifted, and it's becoming more rigged, more sleazy, and it's becoming more challenging for people to get that the safety that they thought that they were getting. And granted, there are examples of people that are doing just fine. They're making epic bank, and that's one form of being able to breathe. One form of safety is if you've got $1 million a year coming in, I think it's going to be easier for you than your neighbors. And at the same time, I kind of feel like, and for those same people, you said time, and I kind of feel like that's where my new book is being cooked up. Is like, give me 30 minutes and $10, and I'll feed your family all winter. And it's like, even on an urban lot, I visited a spot in Seattle about 4 months ago where this woman had planted 3 sunchokes in grass. And she said, oh yeah, I stuck them in the ground 2 years ago, and now look, they're just kind of taking over this corner of the yard. And I said, I think you got about 200 pounds of sunchokes right there. I think that's all the food you need to get through the winter. Like if you wanted to, but you could travel some different paths and not eat just that. You might grow some other things too. And she did. She had a couple of other little food plants growing, but they weren't going to produce very much. But this one corner, it's like, all I did is stick them in the ground, and here it is 2 years later, and she's got like hundreds of pounds of food. So totally. I don't know. A big part of this is, and of course, but she's in an urban lot too, and it's kind of like, well, what's the neighbor laying down on the ground on the other side of that fence? And it's like, not to mention the fact that there's so much traffic in the area. All of Seattle is in this big brown cloud, and how much, and when it rains, how much of the brown ends up in your soil? And now what's that like? And so, all right, I started by asking you a question that's delicious, but at the same time, like, challenging. And this is where my mind goes a lot, is to think about, lifespans and stuff, and about health and things like that, and how it can be really, really easy. But I think step one, it's hard to live in the city unless you have a job.
Yeah.
Because the cost,
or a trust fund,
the cost of housing can be profound, and it happens every month. And so I think a lot of people, like a solid 70% of their income goes to housing. Yeah. And it's kind of like, I want to paint a picture to break that cycle. And so I've been advocating for years now. In fact, I think 10, 15 years ago, I wrote an article where the hero of the article is named Gert. And basically Gert has a humble home and a large garden. And I'm sure you've met these people. You've met Gerts. people
Yeah.
who don't have a job at all, but they got a humble home and a large garden, and it seems like they don't need a job. They're happy and living large, and their life is so robust, and they don't have a job. They don't have a trust fund. They don't have, and it's like, how are you existing? How are you get? Why do the rest of us have to go get a job and you don't? And it's like they've got their ways, and it's like I think this is where we study. This is where we observe, and there are ways. Oh, and so Andreas puts up a picture of the GERT card. We've got a Kickstarter going right now. I don't know if you knew this, for these for this new deck of cards, and one of the cards, I guess it's the 7 of spades, is the GERT card. And so, but you, I'm sure, I'll bet you have met hundreds of GERTs. True?
Yeah, totally.
And
Totally.
So I keep trying to tell people about this, and of course they cannot believe it. It's to them it's fiction for me, but I'm glad you're here to validate what I'm saying.
Totally.
How about this? I've got this. I know that when we were at this event, I know that I presented on the SKIP program, which is a free program, and I made a book that's basically the free stuff. And I don't know why people buy the book, but they do. But the idea is like the beginning of it, the start of the whole idea of, and the SKIP book. Most of the people that are doing SKIP do it for a whole different reason than what we originally created it for. But we created it because I kept meeting people that were elderly, and they said, can you name somebody worthy for me to will my land to will my whole homestead to? Dozens of people like that. Dozens. Have you met these people? I'm sure you have.
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. And I mean, things are the way they are, Paul.
They're desperate to find somebody. They're desperate. And the key is they just want somebody worthy. And that's where the book came from. Like, well, what does that mean? Worthy. And so the whole SKIP program was developed to help, have a way of measuring that somebody is worthy. One could argue that I'm dumb and stupid and this doesn't work. And it's like, maybe so. We'll find out. I think we're really close to getting the very first people to inherit land. But I just thought I would ask you, we've never had this conversation, but then I think I have personally talked to 4 dozen people where they're like, can you name one person that's worthy? And now in Permies, we've got a few people that have completed so much of the SKIP program that I would easily point to them. And there's the proof that these people need. And it's like, so I think it's all about to leap forward. But all right. Sorry, Stephen. I really want to direct the conversation to you. I mean, I have a lot of this is your crazy fruit? What is it?
Yes. So it's called Mame Zapote. And it's the family of Sapotaceae family. Wait till you see the seed, Paul. You won't even believe it. Oh, it's such an amazing.
So it's got an orange pulp.
Mm-hmm. And
kind of a reddish orange pulp.
And it kind of tastes like pumpkin pie, like sweet potato pumpkin pie. It's amazing. It's so delicious. We make smoothies with coconut milk out of it. The most unique thing about the fruit, Paul, is that from flower to harvest is 2 years. It stays on the tree for 2 years before you harvest it.
Wait. So you're saying that you'll go up to a tree and you'll see a fruit.
You'll see a flower. Yeah.
Okay.
So you see a flower, and if you take a picture of it and you watch it, you're not going to pick that fruit for 2 years.
Okay. All right. what is like I think, I mean, this for me, for the stuff I'm now advocating for gardening, one of the most important criteria is to have a giant harvest window. So when the fruit is ready to be harvested, how big is the harvest window? Like that fruit is ready to be harvested, and so I'm going to come back in 2 months and grab that.
No, not 2 months. I mean, the interesting about this fruit, it's hard to know by the size. This one was already cut off a little bit. It was a little bit bigger. It's a pretty big fruit. You know, the only way you know that it's ripe, not by the size. You have to come up and scratch it. So it's a very expensive fruit, and you really have to keep your trees nice and pruned. Because if it's,
Okay.
I mean, I had a huge one in Punta Mona, and we used to have to like go up there with a stick with a little knife on it and nick it to see, because if it's still green when you nick it, it's not ready. But if you nick it and it's at all oranges, then you pick it, and it takes like 5 days to ripen. So actually, you have a pretty good. You probably have a couple month, 6 week window
Okay.
where you could pick it. Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
It's
that's
delicious.
I think because that's another thing too, is I saw a lot of gardeners being very, very stressed out. Like they had gardens, but they were being very stressed out because the gardens demanded a certain variety of discipline from them. They needed to have the discipline to harvest on just the right day. And but they were like trying to do worky jobs and
Worky jobs.
travel and other they're trying to they've got this rich life, and when they have a moment to do their gardening, all of the fruit is on the ground and rotting, and they're like, damn it. And so they're beating themselves up. And so I want to advocate for crops, and you know, I live in Montana, which is some cold country, and I want to advocate for crops. I love the crops that can be harvested. That you can just leave them in the garden through the winter, and you can go and harvest them December, January, February. This is a good example. The thing I don't like about the sunchokes is there's about 3 months that you can't harvest sunchokes, but that's in the summer when everything else is on. But
I love that.
But it's like, so a 9-month harvest window is still an amazing harvest window. And so another one is walking onions that can be harvested 365 days a year. And it's like, but these large harvest windows make it so it's very forgiving and gentle and soul building, rather than all that hurt that you feel when it's like, I didn't harvest it at the right moment. So to hear about how that might have a 2-month window, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
2 months is pretty good.
And you know what, Paul? Like, I want to take a moment just to celebrate like this time in the earth right now. There are some exciting things going down. There's this guy, my biggest kind of fruit hero is this guy, Joe Hewitt. He's from the Big Island of Hawaii. He has a Facebook group called Grow All the Fruits. And he is like, so like I said earlier, like I think probably 15 years ago, I might have had one of the largest collections of useful plants, but now there's people way wealthier than me and with way more time and way more focus. I'm doing like 5 different things at once. They're just hunting rare foods. And what's happening right now is that there's these really nerdy Facebook groups, like deep rabbit holes going into like Myrtaceae groups and Artocarpus groups and Cutiferaceae groups. I mean, like so nerdy. And what's happening is I feel like there was a time where there was like collectors, and this is what's so exciting is there was like, you know, mostly like older white men that they could have collected cars or baseball cards or whatever they were collecting, but they happened to have collected fruit. And about 10 or 15 years ago, they were like really protective. Like, I traveled all the way to Vietnam to get that seed or that cutting. You know, I'm not just going to give it to you. And now I think kind of led a little bit by this guy, Joe Hewitt. And like, there's this, you know, group of super nerds like me that how can we spread these things far and wide so everybody's growing them? How can we collect these things and improve people's lives? So it's a very, very, very exciting time. And a lot of these foods are being domesticated for the first time ever. Like these are foods that are coming out of Sri Lanka or the forests of Borneo or the forests of Cameroon. Like there's a fruit There's a fruit called safu that's just coming on the scene. It's called African butterfruit. And or another one I'll tell you about called dabai. Dabai, these are like oily, rich, perennial like vegetables, basically, that are just coming on the scene. There's one from Borneo called dabai. Dabai, they call it the Brunei olive, and you just soak it in salt, warm water, and it's like this olivey richness, delicious. And there's a whole culture around dabais. There's like many different varieties. So we're at the cutting edge of time, and where I come in is how can we take this cutting edge of time with genetics and useful plants and merge it into the very communities where we live. You know, so that's I think that's kind of my little piece in all of this, is like we need to collect all these crazy foods, learn how to grow them, and learn how to literally merge them into our communities. I just led this ceremony the other night, and there was this woman in the group that I'm watching my friends' kids ride these scooters around the pool, and my like Jewish nervous sense is like watching them so nervous. I'm like so nervous watching them. I can't even look. So what was I saying? I was just about to
you're saying that you feel the sensation, but you're fighting the urge to say, "Hey, are you getting
it? Stop it.
What
anyway,
are you crazy?"
Exciting times. We're living in exciting times. And I mean, anyone who's watching, and I think what I like would leave you with is, radically question everything. And that like we have, I know what I was saying. I was leading the ceremony the other day, and there was this woman, elderly woman, like in her 70s. She was the youngest of a group of women that started an agricultural neighborhood outside of Cincinnati, Ohio. 170 lots. She sold 140 of them already. Like this is happening, Paul. Like, you know,
No.
And the other thing I always say is we could change the world if they'd only give us permits. So it's interesting. Like a lot of the visions are out there.
Okay.
I think
I gotta say a thing for you. And it's along the lines of that. And it's like, so like recently I was presenting on rocket mass heater stuff, and somebody said something about like, yeah, but isn't that, isn't the government say no? Like anything that burns wood? And I said, years ago, pot was illegal, and nobody in Montana smoked pot until the government said it was okay. And the reason why the government then said it was okay is because the pot before was poison. No one could touch it, but now it's okay. And so they're looking out for us. So what's important here is always obey the government, just like everybody did with pot. It doesn't matter that rocket mass heaters solve global problems or save you thousands of dollars per year, makes your life easy and delightful. Those things don't matter. What matters most is that you are strictly obedient to God, and you've met those people. Universally, every politician is lovely, delightful, and wise. And so definitely make sure you're obedient to the politicians. That's what's the most important thing. It does turn out to be that throughout Missoula County, rocket mass heaters are perfectly legal under certain conditions. And I kind of like the idea that rocket mass heaters are so delightful that someday they will be not only thoroughly legalized, but also rewarded. Not today, but someday perhaps. Now, for what you were saying is, it's like if only we could get permitted, and it's like there's some people in the world of permaculture who say never talk to the regulators, only talk to the lawmakers, and I kind of feel like part of that is true. Yes, indeed. And I think what's even more true is when there's 60% of the population breaking the law because the benefits are so profound and the downsides are thoroughly exaggerated, then I think that's a way to affect change as well. All right, so you're saying something about regulation, and yeah, it's true. You and I apparently are some kind of threat, and to the profits of somebody somewhere. People with machine guns showed up at your place to help drive that point home. I'm suffering right now. Our community, our online community, is being tortured by people whose profits are being threatened, and so we are just gonna do the best of it, make the best of it, do the best we can. At the same time, I think that there are pockets of the world where you can go and do things, even though it might be contrary to regulation in other places. So it's like some places have more regulations than others. Some places have HOAs. Some places have I don't know if you remember, like when we were kids, there was a television show and it featured Mrs. Kravitz. Do you remember Mrs. Kravitz in a television?
What show was it?
It was Bewitched. She would peek through the curtains to look at the shenanigans going on across the street and then, complain. And it's kind of like, so basically these people could have a very easy, normal, comfortable life if not for Mrs. Kravitz. But because of Mrs. Kravitz, they got more attention than they wanted to what they were doing. So I guess the thing that I'm thinking is that it's like, yes. And in fact, I know I made some podcasts more than 10 years ago because I watched a movie called Farmageddon. And this, oh, you're familiar with it?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Okay. So basically they visited with 5 different families. And they had filed with the USDA to say, we want to do raw dairy totally legally.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then, and so now they're in a database. And each of these 5 families suddenly had an army of people with machine guns pointed at their children as they grabbed all of the animals and put them into an acid bath to completely dissolve the animals. And they claimed that the animals had some sort of illness, and they didn't. In fact, the animals had been tested just days before to show that they did not have the illness. But that isn't what so the movie explores, like, well, how did this happen? Why did these people come and do this awful thing? And it's like, oh, it turns out that several of the people that were being employed through the government to do what's good and right and decent forgot to get signatures. And it turns out that there was a bunch of powerful influence from big pharma. And so raw dairy has certain benefits to people. But if you appreciate these benefits, you might not spend as much money with big pharma. And you might tell somebody else about the benefits. And that just isn't okay. That's a threat to their profits. And so so this is so I made a whole podcast about it because there's a movie and blah, 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 blah. Stephen, I'm sorry, I've gone off onto a tangent.
Oh, that's okay.
But you foolishly said something that triggered me, and that was
I mean it.
The regulations.
The permitting, and Andres just was put there's a chat there. What are the regulations from Ben and permitting, like in Costa Rica? They're really annoying, actually. They're super annoying. They're super bureaucratic, and they make you have to spend a lot of money on people that are good at that. And I mean, in some ways it's really good because they're super protective of water and like the environmental things, but most of it's really annoying, and it's just part of the thing. I mean, I think it's easier than it is in the US, although people are pulling it off, like this woman in Ohio, but yeah, it's I can't say I'm up here like all relaxed talking to you, Paul, like, oh yeah, we did all these things. All of it was really hard. It was super hard. None of this was easy to do. If you're thinking about doing it, I'd recommend joining someone that's already done it. It's hard, and if you are, somewhat, what's interesting right now, Paul, is that like people are waking up faster than ever. Like there's probably like 100 ayahuasca ceremonies happening this weekend, and there's people that are going to Burning Man, and there's people that are like going to, taking your courses and getting your decks and taking our courses. So people are just waking up, and some of those people are like children of like, billionaire developers. So it's like, how can we bring these concepts to the people that already really know how to, because a lot of the developers these days, they're making deals with Target, they're making deals with Walmart, like that's how the, they're putting in big shopping centers. Their friends were working in the, lobbying the government, it's like, it's a different game, but a lot of the people that are playing that game are waking up, so I think we're in an exciting time. I think, there's that book, Fields and Dreams, Bill Mollison's autobiography. And it has this one page, and he didn't say exactly this, but I can't remember exactly what he said, but this is what I've taken from it, is practical solutions can't be suppressed only for a little while. It's like that whack-a-mole game. Like we keep like trying to do things and whacking us down. And eventually there are going to be too many of us, and they won't be able to whack fast enough, because like and I think we're also getting smarter. It's like we were, like our movement in many ways was off in the woods in the 60s taking acid, and now it's like people are grounded and I'm not saying you weren't grounded in the 60s if you're taking acid, but I just feel like this whole movement is just getting a lot more organized, and people are like, you can't, every single farm worker, everyone has a video camera on their phone, so you can't hide this shit anymore. You can't hide the things they're doing anymore, and it's like, and you can't hide your own children from it. So it's got to stop, It's like, if people know what they're doing and spraying glyphosate, and their children they're on their 15th IVF treatment, it's like, hey, am I a part of the reason this is happening? Like, this is a fact. So I don't know. I just went on my own little tangent.
I think that all the video helps. I think a lot of these things help, but a lot of it is that, and I think that, like, for example, people living in the city, they're bathing all day, every day in a massive buffet of toxins. So there's probably 50 different toxins just in the air. And then there's a long list of toxins that come in their water or in their beverages. And then a long list of toxins coming in their foods. So they've just got all these toxic vectors. And so then it's kind of like, okay, how do you video that? How do you video something that's kind of invisible? I mean, if you look at a city, it's always got a giant brown cloud over it. And it's like, but if you're in the neighborhood and you're trying to video, you don't see the brown cloud. You're in the brown cloud. You don't see it. And so it's kind of like, and then when it rains, the brown cloud disappears. So where did it go? And it's kind of like, but it's like, so many people that I talk to, they got an urban lot, and it's like, here's the stuff I'm struggling with. And so many people in the world of permaculture, so you said something at the beginning about how you wanted to find land that was degraded, but it was naturally degraded. It was like somebody came in and cut down all the trees. They made it into a desert.
Yeah.
As opposed to people in most urban communities where their soil or dirt has had so much toxicity introduced to it over 100 years that they can't undo. And so it's like, what do they do? And so they're trying to like get food crops to come out of that. And it's like, and then they're thinking about eating it. And it's kind of like, it doesn't matter how organic you do it, it's still full of poison because of the long, long history of that particular plot and the things that were done there. And it's kind of like, how do you mitigate that or get away? And it's like, oh boy, first you'd have to find out what are all the toxins that are there and find different ways to mitigate each of those. But so many permaculture people seem to be keen on the idea of like, I'm going to go to some place that's so loaded with toxins, I'm going to get food to grow. And it's kind of like, I would rather have some place that's been relatively untouched and then get food to grow there. And now you've got foods that will cure the ailments that people are suffering from in the city. And they got those ailments because of all the toxins used in the foods that they're eating. And so I don't know, it's a completely different angle. Like how do you get people to live to be 120 instead of 80? And I think that a big part of it is if you can just eliminate the toxins is going to be an enormous part of it.
There's this whole movement, this word biohacking. Everybody's talking about biohacking. You know that word?
I've heard it. I don't know what it means.
So it's like a whole trend movement. Like people are talking about biohacking, like hacking biology. That we're doing that so we could like live longer. It's this concept of biohacking. And I'm just like, hacking biology. Like we just need to go in nature. We just need to be in biology rather than hack it. Like we really want to live longer. Like it seems like such a funny trend. It's such a funny word. It's like, yeah, we are just so disconnected. It's unbelievable.
I kind of feel like whatever it is that they're doing, a lot of it could be food based.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've for the last couple of years, I've been living strongly with food as medicine, and it has been powerfully transforming for me to improve my health. And so I've been absolutely shocked at how well it's working. I hadn't thought of calling it biohacking, but it
don't call it that. I don't like that word.
It's kind of like there's lots of studies showing that these foods make you much healthier, and there's certain foods that you might think are healthy, and it's like maybe not so much. So as you're exploring all these different fruits and vegetables that you can grow in a tropical area, part of what I was thinking is like, I wonder what the story is nutritionally for people on that. When you talked about the bananas, I want to point out, I don't think I've eaten a banana in 10 years or more.
Good for you. Yeah.
Partly because it's kind of like, and people turn up their nose at apples in favor of bananas. And I'm kind of thinking like, I think apples are like the perfect food for people.
If you're in Montana or you're in the northern place. But if you're here, like we shouldn't be eating apples.
Fair point.
Although, want to hear something cool? So in the tropics, every 100 meters you go up in elevation, it's like going 1 degree away from the equator. So we grow apples in Costa Rica. Amazing. I wonder if she bought them today at the market. I bet she did. I would like to show you our apples. Hey, Ash, did you didn't buy any of those little Anna apples today at the market, did you? The little apples, Costa Rican apples? Yeah. Can you bring me one? Haha, she did. Because people like apples, but, and they still import the Chilean ones and they still import, Washington apples. Yeah, look at our apples. So up in the very highland tropics, you can grow a lot of the temperate fruits. They just come a little bit different. And I feel like it's a whole reality that hasn't been studied so much. And I think there's a lot of room for investigation, for trial. Oh, thanks. Oh, I can show them that too. Yeah, I bought these little cacaos too for 1,000 colones. This is my friend Ashley. Look at the question that just came up. What schooling system do you have at your places? How do they compare and align with online learning? Oh. Ashley's an amazing Waldorf teacher, and she's actually running a big conference in January for Waldorf teachers. This is Paul.
Hi, Paul.
And a whole slew of people that are out there probably watching.
It's not Paul Zink, though, right?
No.
I'm far away.
He's in Montana. This guy is epic, man. He's just like a backwoods Montana permaculture guy. So check out our little apples. They're little tiny apples. Thanks.
Amazing. It looks like a beautiful apple.
It's a tiny one. I mean, it's a small little apple. Great. I don't know what you would think, but you're probably an apple snob. But
I am an apple snob. We've been having conversations the last few months, but it's now time for us to start growing lemons and figs here.
They're warm.
It isn't something that normally grows outdoors in Montana, but we're going to grow lemons outdoors and we're going to grow figs outdoors. And we're exploring how we're going to go about doing that. What is that?
That one?
Is it a mango?
Cacao.
No, what is that?
Chocolate.
Oh.
It's cacao. Here, I'll open it up for you. cracking on her tile floor. That's what chocolate cacao looks like inside.
Now, don't you have to like
Oh my God, the
ferment it?
seeds they're already sprouted. Yeah, you ferment them. You
Yeah.
take the seeds out. I mean, you could suck on them. They're sweet and delicious. But you take these out and you ferment them. You put them in a bowl and you cover them, or in a bucket. When you have a lot of them, you cover them in a bucket and you put banana leaves, if you have banana leaves, over them, and you leave them for like anywhere from like 3 to 6 days. And then you wash it off and you put it on the sun to dry, and then you roast it, peel it, mill it, or blend it. And that's where you get chocolate from.
Stephen, we're running out of time. I got a note from Andreas to say that we got to wrap up in the next 10 minutes or so. So I know that the biggest thing I wanted to hear from you about that I learned when we were at that conference, and I remember in my presentation I said, "Oh no, I just used words that will offend Stephen's dad," and it's like I can't even remember what I said, but the thing that's important to me is that it's rare to me to find a community that can last more than 10 years, but more importantly, a majority of the people that live there have been there for more than 2 years. So like most of the communities that I have been able to visit that have existed for more than 10 years, most of the people that are there, in fact, most of those communities I visited, nobody's been there longer than 2 years. And so but you have a very different recipe from the other things that I've observed. And so I would, in the minutes we have left, I wish for you to convey to my peeps, what is the recipe for community that you guys are using that's so successful?
I will say the first community that we started, Ecovia, still has a lot of turnover. And there's like a lot of circumstances that I won't get into now, but I mean, there's many people that have been there a long time. The latest one that I did, Alegria, is like there's not much turnover, and people now it's 4 years or 5 years, and people and it's really, I think the key is the people that you get and the expectations that you set. And then also the empowerment, it's like, people are kind of used to just kind of being led. But what's so interesting that what's going on right now is that people are really co-leading. Oh, I sent this to Andres. This is the Google Maps. Sometimes people put together really good presentations. If you can zoom in a little bit there, Andres. So that first one, what's right there in the center, that was the first community. And you could see, if you go down a little bit, put your cursor down, that house all the way on the left, that greenhouse is mine. But if you go down a little bit, you can see the garden. Yeah, that's my house. And then go down a little bit, you can see the communal garden. This is Ecovia. And zoom all the way out, Andres, which is so cool. This is all food forest in between all these trees. Look what it used to look like everywhere. If you zoom out even more, look all around us, what it looks like. And then if you go up there to the left, you can see all those roads. This is actually a really old picture. They're not like up low. That's Alegria, that whole area. And if you zoom in, you can see the garden that we showed you earlier. Right to the left. Yeah, right there. You can see the Fibonacci and the dome and the yoga deck. And yeah, there's a lot more houses there now. There's probably like 50 or 60 houses there. And yeah, I mean, I think people really like to feel empowered. I think people like to, feel like they're actually co-creating what's happening. And I think that's kind of the key to making this work, is finding ways to open the doors so that people can co-create. I think that, and that I think, people following somebody that's doing this are going to be bored eventually. Like, and I think me kind of stepping out of Alegria, I hope there's people here that are watching that are actually in Alegria, is that, people, me stepping out, like, left room for a lot of people to step up. One of my permaculture students from Ecoversity, he was a Ecoversity permaculture student. It was while I was starting Alegria one day in class, I was just talking about Alegria. He ended up like coming down on a graduation that we did and bought a lot. And now he's, not only is he running the garden, the communal garden, but he has a permaculture design company with another one of my students, a Colombian woman, another student of mine, and together they're literally, planting fruit trees in everyone's gardens in the community. So I think, I think feeling empowered. I think, I think keeping fun and keeping it light. Like, I think it's really important to have fun. I think people sometimes forget. How's
So
that?
I think that's what is the decision making model for your community where you're getting people, where people are staying longer?
So it's I wish I had a more exciting answer for you, but it's really just, it's kind of like a do-ocracy, it's like people that do things make decisions, and it's like, we have like a typical HOA, it's an HOA that the decisions are made through an HOA. We have all these different committees. We have like the gardening committee, and we have like the conscious parenting group, and we have the common spaces committee, and basically, the people that show up to the meetings and care are the ones that make the decisions. And then when there's, I think the other thing that's really key is that the founders, me and my crew, my dad and our crew, we really thought about a lot of things. So we made most of the decisions before people bought in. Of course, there's room to switch things and change things, but there's so much put into place when showed up that every year at the HOA, there's like things that get voted on, like, oh, we want to build a sports court, or we want to turn the soccer field into a pickleball court, or we want to turn, so like there's little things that happen, but for the most part, most of the decisions were already made. I think the key is I wouldn't ever recommend coming together with 50 people and trying to create a community and make decisions together.
Yeah, that's what I usually see failing. But I like where you're at, where it's kind of like basically it's an HOA, and it's like with a whole different value set of the HOAs that we fear and loathe. Mm-hmm. And so, but then you also start off, and it's like, okay, this is community number 3, and we've learned a lot of lessons from communities 1 and 2. So here's where we're starting with number 3, and if you don't like it, don't go there.
Exactly.
And then it turns out that a lot of people are like, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, we're on number 4 now, and it's called Eterna. Here, I'll put it in the chat. Eterna.earth. And if you want to show those pictures now, Andres, there's some great pictures of Eterna, where one thing that we're doing at Eterna that's so fun, and this is another real key to keeping people around, is that I told you I have a background. I used to throw a big festival in Costa Rica called Envision. It grew to 10,000 people. But what we're doing in this land is we have like an event space, and we're throwing small events in a common area. And this is our beach. This is basically, there's only like a couple accesses to this beach, and we're one of them. This is the beach. We have 100 acres on this beach. And then, go to the next one. This is our event space. Look at the ocean back there. This is like where we're throwing our events. There's a fire pit right there. Then this one, this is a little stage that we built around. Here, go to the next one. Yeah, around a giant guanacaste tree. This is the stage around it where we have just like music. And look, this is an incredible Colombian guitar player just ripping. Probably the best female guitar player I've ever seen. Just ripping there with the sunset over the ocean. And again, we're just keeping the fun. We're keeping it fun, and we're throwing events, and that's part of the very community where we are. And like I said, it's called Eterna.earth is the website. And we're throwing some great events. We actually, are you familiar with Rosemary Gladstar, Paul?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I met her once.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's like the grandmother of modern herbalism. She had the first herb store in America. She's like, for me, she's like one of my biggest heroes in the world. So she's coming, and we organize this whole event around her. It's on January 30th. We have Ayla Nario, who's one of my favorite singers, Leah Song of Rising Appalachia, and a bunch of musicians that are coming because they want to be a part of her visit. And so that's happening on January 30th. So this whole season right now, we're just every week and then the other thing is that we're really into artistry. So we're doing these artist residencies. We're inviting some of our favorite musicians to just come and live there and create this residency for artists. And And that's another thing. My partner's Costa Rican, and we're so important to us to have Costa Ricans there, and and yeah, and artists, because I think that's what's so important. You're asking how people are affording this. It's like we're really working hard to figure out. It's a great question, and we're really questioning this patron model where how can we really support artists like in the old days, like how we used to patron. So there's a few different steps in this, Ingrid. I mean, the reality is the lots aren't absorbently expensive anyway. They're more expensive here than in the past. In the last communities, like they started at $50,000 the lots, and here they're more expensive just because it's on the ocean and the property was a lot more expensive. But Ingrid, something that we did that was so interesting was we in the second community that I started, Taco Tal, is we came together. We were, I started it, but then I brought in all these friends. Everybody put in $12,500. We raised $300,000. We bought the property for $200,000, and then we spent $100,000 on like a farm truck, the first water system, the first communal buildings, and then everybody gives like, I don't know, $750 a month, $750 a year in dues. And it's happening a lot slower than these other communities where I raised a couple $1 million and built the whole thing out. But I think there's a lot of models, Ingrid. I think there's a lot of ways to do this. And I think the key is having real skills. And that just brings me to like the stuff that you guys are doing with Permies, what we're doing with Ecoversity and the course that we're teaching. It's like when you have real skills, every community wants you there. This is the course that we're doing. It's called the Living Systems Design. And we're bringing together just the most interesting teachers, to really, ignite. And what I love so much about permaculture is it doesn't tell you what to do. It kind of just tells you how to think. And it gives you kind of an overlay of all the different, you're not going to be a water expert or a pond making expert or a decision making expert. Yeah, there you can see some of the, that's Rosemary Gladstar right there in the orange. These are just some of the teachers that are teaching now in the course. And it's really just, there are people from all over the world, indigenous leaders to elders to, people that are great at using computer programs to map. Like and I think if you have real skills, all these communities want you there. Yeah. Just coming up in February, this next course.
I think we're about out of time, but boy, we got to do this again sometime soon.
Yes, Paul. Yeah. I love it. We got to get you involved in this course for sure. I know we have a big summit coming up in January. I'm going to have Maddie and Andres talk and line it up so you're part of it.
Oh, fun. I think
I love your views. I love your questions. I love it. You're amazing. I remember loving you when I met you in Texas, and I'm so happy to be with you again here today.
Yeah, that Texas event was great. And yeah, I regret that we haven't gotten in touch. Like we should have gotten in touch like immediately after that Texas event.
I know. And well, here we are.
Yeah, I really want to, there's so much more to talk about. But thank you, Stephen, for joining us. And I'm going to say, if you like this sort of thing, come on out to the forums at permies.com, where we talk about community, homesteading, and permaculture all the time.